Welcome back. GST, ABN, BAS, you may have heard of them, but what do they actually mean? Accountant Dyna Ung explains. Today I'm joined by Dyna Ung, Principal from Tactics Accountants and Advisors. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Today we're going to be talking about ABN, GST and BAS basics. First of all, can you tell me what's an ABN?
Okay, an ABN is an Australian business number. It's introduced back in 2000 to basically identify businesses.
Okay, and so why would you apply for an ABN?
You need to quote your ABN when issuing invoices.
Okay.
Another thing would be to stop payers from withholding 46.5% of your payment.
Okay.
And you use it for identification purposes when dealing with the ATO.
And so how do you actually go by applying for an ABN?
Yeah, there's two methods. There's paper forms that you can fill in, or you can go onto the government website, which is www.abr.gov.au, and there you can fill it in online.
Okay. And so what kind of costs are involved with obtaining an ABN?
If you do it yourself, there's actually no cost apart from the internet connection maybe. A tax agent will charge a small fee for it. It generally takes up to about half an hour to prepare.
Okay. So on to GST. How does GST work?
GST is actually quite complicated, but the general principle is that it's a tax on the supply at 10%, and only businesses registered for GST can charge GST, but they can also claim GST back from their purchases. There are items that are GST free, for example, fresh food, but that changes its character once you do something to it, like for example cooking it changes its character and turns it into a GST supply.
So when does a business have to register for GST?
It generally has to register for GST when its turnover is above 75,000.
So why would a business want to register for GST if they didn't really have to?
Yep. GST in itself is a bit of a headache. You've got to account for it. So there's reasons why you wouldn't want to register for GST. If you wanted to claim back your input tax credits on your purchases, then that's a really good reason to get some money back from the government. But you'd have to charge GST on your services if you were to register for GST.
Okay. So how does a business account for GST, and should you actually keep GST money in a separate bank account?
There's two methods, the cash and accruals method. The cash method, you're liable to the ATO for money received once you've received cash, and you only ask for GST back on your purchases when you've paid for them. The other alternative is the accruals method. Under the accruals method, you're liable to remit GST to the ATO once you've sent an invoice. Collecting money to put aside, that's a good, prudent idea, but it's not compulsory. There's no law that says you've got to keep that separate money
totally
aside.
Separate.
Yeah.
Okay. So now on to BAS statements. Mm-hmm. What is a business activity statement?
Yeah, it's a form that you have to do on a regular basis. For large businesses, it could be monthly. For smaller businesses, generally every 3 months, quarterly. And it just asks some questions about your total sales, your whether you've made any exports or GST-free sales, whether you've made any capital purchases, and then you list all the other other purchases as well, and you claim GST back or remit GST to the ATO depending on your sales. Other things on that form are fuel tax credits, fringe benefits, employee withholding. So you work out your total tax for the period, and then you just pay the ATO.
So what happens if your BAS hasn't been entered on time?
Okay, you get into a bit of trouble with the ATO, and they've got, I guess, some tools up their sleeves. They can penalise you. It's generally $110 per month that you're late, and then they can charge interest on any outstanding debt. So the trick there is, I guess, to lodge if you know that you can't afford to pay it, then just lodge your BAS, and then pay it by instalments to the ATO. That way you don't get penalised, but you might get charged interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if someone's having trouble filling out a BAS statement, where can they go for help?
The ATO have a free service where they actually can come out to your premises and help you with your bookkeeping. It's mainly to explain how to do things. They also have a lot of free software and information on their website. E-records used for businesses to keep their books and account for GST, and it's actually free for download, or you can request it over the phone.
Excellent. Some great information. Thanks, Dyna, for joining us today, and some excellent information that should certainly help with your business.
Thank you.